We have Dr. Dooley here from Haltian, from Finland. He's Chief Strategy Officer for the Empathic Building at Haltian. I liked a comment that you had on, or a line about yourself on LinkedIn. I work on wicked problems with a people-centric mindset and technology. So I think we can look forward to an interesting presentation. Ken, the stage is yours.
Super. Thanks, Mate. Okay, I'll share my screen. Please tell me if I do so incorrectly, but it should work.
Yes.
Great.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to jump in then, and I think there's been a lot of consensus so far with regards to what we expect from office buildings, and what we think the future is. So I'll run through a few slides here. Actually, I really like this report from Hassel from Daniel Davis, who used to work for WeWork. They've kind of looked at some of the future structures, and we've talked about this a lot, where they've said there is as it was, or there's turbocharged activity-based working, or there's a clubhouse feeling, and there's a hub and spoke. We heard Diana talk about kind of co-working and these kind of things today, and then there's the idea of no office. I think we in this community, in this kind of last few days, I think we understand these concepts quite well. As it was being the same as it was before, turbocharged activity-based working being, really much more focus on sitting where the task requires. Clubhouse being the headquarters or the office building is really focused on social. Hub and spoke, meaning that there's a real focus on having office spaces close to your home so you can reduce traveling. And then this idea of no office at all, that people are fully remote, fully virtual. From my perspective, I really think the future is that we go to the office for clubhouse, feeling, for social. I'll show some of these things. And also that our organizations have to provide a close to home kind of hub and spoke model as well, that we have co-working membership kind of close to home. But the reason why I like Hassel and Daniel Davis's report the most is I actually really like this kind of image that's coming in a moment, where when you think of in-person, hybrid, and remote, they kind of classify things with this diagram. Actually, I think this is a really good diagram where we talk about on one side, there's an idea of no office. Here it gives us big access to talent. I think some of the things we've mentioned today are the kind of CFOs who are interested in kind of reducing space. So on one side here, we have the kind of no office perspective, which maybe kind of reduces our costs regarding real estate and increases our access to talent. But the other side of the equation, the other side is kind of culture and connection. And in some places I've called this kind of culture, connection, community. And I think these are the key elements we've talked about a lot for the last day or two, and I'll go into them in detail, that these are really important things. This is what employees want. This is what organizations want. So I'll go through a little bit more the technology that we have that's supporting these things. We saw in the last discussion a moment ago the idea of something like spaces and technology and human. We also talk spaces, technology, and culture a lot. I'll talk a little bit about the technology and how it supports the spaces, how it supports the culture. And then in my last few slides, I'll show a kind of a new perspective on that I think is emerging as well. So I'll tell a little bit about me before I kind of go on further. So I'm running the kind of office side or the workplace side of our software. I'm also a researcher in our university here in Helsinki, in Aalto University. So working on smart buildings, working on things like convenience in technologies in these buildings, and you can see a lot of that in this conversation today. And I'll keep some time for questions, so please kind of jump in and ask some questions. So on about hybrid, on about return to work, to talk about these kind of things, I'll show some of the kind of overview of what we do, and I'll show what underpins it. So we have these kind of I think they're called smart workplace solutions these days, or smart office apps, that really focuses on employee experience. It really focuses on the end user. So I'll show what some of those things means, but it means that it's easy to use. It means that it has a beautiful user experience. It's not something clunky that's difficult to learn. And then if we do the end user experience really well, if we do this kind of people first, employee first approach, then automatically the key data is delivered. But we really try and solve this kind of end user first. I have a smart buildings background. I'm an engineer. I've learned that the hard way from many smart buildings projects, which really we couldn't justify the budget for all these small smart buildings things. And this is kind of what our digital twins look like. They're these really light digital twins. They're not like a building information model. They're a very light digital floor plan. It's a web app, so you can open it on a phone or a touch screen or a laptop. And the lightness is a kind of key element for us. It has been designed by a software development company and their game designers to solve problems originally for their HQ. So it's kind of really not from the real estate industry, which is where my background is. It's really designed by kind of game designers, and it's super light because of that. And I guess what we're kind of talking about with our perspective is we all want, from an organizational point of view anyway, we want people to visit the workplace more often than maybe they want to. If we agree 2 days a week or 1 day a week, we want them to come 2 or 3 days a week. And I'll show that in a moment around bonding and collaboration and these things. But the approach we have is to make the office or the workplace, this beautiful user experience, this really kind of easy place where all the small problems are solved. So we're talking here about saving you time, finding colleagues or finding desks or meeting rooms or even booking spaces. And then, I think in the last presentation, they talked about over 50 minutes per month were wasted just trying to find a space, to have a meeting in. There's also a huge thing around providing choice, having these digital twins and showing all the different kind of different furniture or the different types of rooms, be it a collaboration space or quiet rooms or small phone booths. Actually, because we have them dotted around the workplace, they might be on the second floor or the fifth floor, actually showing them with the digital tool really enables me to kind of benefit from the cool furniture, from the cool workplace design. Because if I'm in a skyscraper, like we have one customer in Munich, and the spaces I want are 2 or 3 floors up, am I going to walk the 2 or 3 floors up to find that ad hoc collaboration room, or am I just going to deal with, I'll take the small room close to where I'm sitting today because I don't want to climb up the floors and then the space isn't free anymore. So these are the kind of things that we're really focusing on. Again, we want these tools for everyone to be able to use them. So we're really built on them being intuitive, on them being easy to learn, on the kind of problems they solve as being, part of everyone's daily problem, finding a desk, finding a room, finding a colleague, and then the kind of lightness of them being a web app so that it's really easy for anyone to click a link, even the people that maybe don't have very many apps on their smartphone. And again, around kind of social and mental well-being, and in terms of supporting colleagues, we really want kind of to help the well-being of the workplace. And I'll show some examples of how we do that. And we have all kinds of indoor air quality elements, which I'm not going to present today, but are part of the health and well-being discussion. And I guess this is something I show really often. It's around kind of when we think about budgets in smart building, in kind of workplace renovation projects, we have a budget around the real estate side. We have a budget around change management or experience, or even around recruiting new staff. Let's have a cool office so it'll help us recruit people. This is another reason why we really think employee first is the best way to do this. Excuse me. It's because a lot of these studies, 85 to 90% of knowledge organizations' costs are staff costs. So even if we do want space efficiency data, even if we do want something around smart cleaning, so we have all the data to reduce our cleaning costs. So for example, we have cleaning companies using our data to reduce the cleaning cost by 20% on average, they say. That's all kind of downstream. That's all something we do eventually if we do the employee experience first. I'm not going to present some of the kind of the data stuff today. We're just going to talk about some of the tools around convincing people to come back to the office and keeping them there. And I guess these are the things we've talked about a lot. We talk about, why we want people to come to the workplace. It's around creating that culture where we support our employees if they have too much work, where we know our employees enough to, or our colleagues enough to reach out, and if someone's having a bad day, to reach out and say, hey, can I help you? I've joined Haltian during the pandemic. I joined last December, so as a new employee, I've really struggled to kind of really get to know my colleagues during kind of virtual working, but also as a kind of a member of the leadership to kind of really, understand people's individual personalities. So I was speaking to them the right way. And even, kind of scolding someone or telling them off if you think they were rude to a customer or rude to a colleague. You kind of have to have a relationship to have those kind of awkward conversations. So all these elements around bonding and around really understanding people and around kind of building a community so the organization has more stickiness. So, it's maybe harder for people to leave because they have buddies in the workplace are key elements. We also then find, around collaboration and around innovation. I have an innovation background. It's so important to have these conversations around water machine points or corridors or lunch restaurants where we have these kind of key little small conversations, or beers after work. Magic things happen. So these are kind of really, really key kind of important things as well. There's also something called unstructured learning, which means that we kind of hear things over the lunch table. There might be 4 colleagues having lunch and 2 people are talking about some new restructuring in their department. The other people around that table hear about this and they get to kind of offer their opinions, or maybe, hear about it in advance. And then when kind of big change is coming, it's less of a shock. So all of these things are really important. All of these things are why organizations want to have workplaces. It's that graph from Hassel that talks about culture and connection. These are the things that are really important. And this is why, from an organizational point of view, we want people to meet face to face. And these are the things from an employee experience, why we want to be face to face with our colleagues. And I think some of the things that our software is delivering is really making the workplace such a nice place to be and smoothing over some of those small problems that, the employees kind of really benefit from that. And again, this element of collaboration, anyone in a kind of high change industry, productivity or performance now is really connected to collaboration. This is something from a Swedish company I've worked with once or twice that I really believe in the way they talk about it. Here's a quick example of our software. It's this kind of digital twin. Here you can see from the desks which desks are currently being used or have been used recently. We can show the zones, what's a quiet zone, what's a collaboration zone. You can see all the different communication to people of what different spaces are and what desks are reserved. And you can also kind of click meeting rooms or desks to reserve them as well. So it's used for these kind of ways of organizing the workday. And you can also kind of manually check into your location to say, hey, I'm sitting here today. I think sharing your location is a key element of how our customers really tell us repeatedly that they benefit from this. I think manually sharing your location is a little optimistic. I think it's an okay solution, but we have a much better ways to show this. I think it's only the people that are most interested that share their location in this manual way. We have some customers, actually, you can see someone moving here. Sophia's moving here. I'm using Bluetooth tags. I'm just going to show a small video here where actually there's a real-time Bluetooth tag kind of showing the location of our colleagues in real time. We have one really cool office building in Japan, in Tokyo, that has hundreds of people moving around the screen. I haven't got permission to show that, so I'll show a small video from our HQ. And all of our colleagues, it's completely an opt-out, or all of our customers, it's completely opt-out to share your location. You tick a box which says I opt in once you start using the service. And then actually what's come during the pandemic is desk booking has become a really important element. I'll show that here. And it's become around desk booking has become this idea where people are trying to roll out this solution without having lots of hardware, or they're even saying, hey guys, we don't want everyone to turn up on Wednesday. Please reserve a desk before you come in the same way you book a train seat or an airplane seat. You reserve a desk through the software. But from a collaboration point of view, the beautiful thing is here is if I click my profile, this green little box I've ticked here says that I show bookings of where I am to my colleagues. So now I've reserved a desk for tomorrow or for now. You can find me via that desk booking. And I think actually our three ways of sharing location. One is we have this idea where you can share location manually. One is you can share location via Bluetooth tags. And then this idea of sharing location via the desk you've booked, actually, I think is the nicest solution. It means it's effortless for me. Our customers and our colleagues, they share desks or they reserve a desk for themselves. It's a little bit of a selfish and human approach. You want to make sure you have your favorite desk or you have a desk for tomorrow. And then without any extra clicks, you can share your location if you set it up that way. The kind of privacy level is kind of nice as well. It's got a nice balance to it as well. If I book a desk in the corner for tomorrow, it doesn't tell you when I'm there. It just kind of tells you this is where I'll be today. So I might be having lunch. I might be in a Teams meeting in a phone booth. I might be in somewhere else. But it kind of tells you I'm in the office today. This is the kind of area in the office where I'll be today. So if you're looking for me, give me a call and say, hey, meet you later, or just hang around my desk or loop around my desk a few times to see if I'm there and come and talk to me. And these are some of the kind of key things as we go really super activity-based working, and as we have really flexi activity-based, sit wherever you want. These are kind of key things that have been missing during the pandemic with virtual working, being able to have those small 5-minute conversations. It's also the reason why we're really missing those important conversations just before our face-to-face meetings. And as we walk out of the meeting to go back to our desk or to go back to the next meeting, that we have those 2-minute conversations as we leave the room. They might be about work, they might be about social, whatever it is. But these are the key things in kind of creating or enabling these interactions. So, they're the kind of key elements for us. Other things that we've kind of really learned this year is really about understanding what people really want from the workplace. Actually, this image on the right is a story I've heard from Japan. In Japan, one of the biggest sellers during the pandemic has been these desks that you can hook around your car steering wheel. Because some of our customers' staff, although they've been working from home or they've been working remotely, because of the size of their homes, because there are family members at home, maybe not even kids, but actually their parents and their spouses' parents. So a lot of our Japanese customers' staff have been actually working in their car during the pandemic. So, there's, as we know, and we've discussed this, there's no one size fits all for these things. There's lots of different reasons why people want to come to the workplace and remote working doesn't work for them. We've heard so many different reasons around their Wi-Fi is bad at home. They miss the restaurant food downstairs. They like the exercise, walking to and from the office, or the mental break. It could be to do with the clothes that you wear, not wearing stretchy pants or whatever it is. So these are key elements, and these are the things that we've been listening to and designing features around to really make the workplace a super nice place to be. And again, some of the kind of communication things during the pandemic as well. We've had customers, this is a customer in Norway who have, really communicated with the guidelines of kind of washing your hands, have actually said you should book your lunch in advance because we're splitting up how many times people are come to the office in different times. And they even have a counter. You can see the arrows here, and in and out space. This was taken early in the morning. There only 2 people had gone in and 1 person had left. But really kind of using the digital twins to manage and to show one-way routes around the office or whatever it is, to really kind of manage and during the pandemic, and to kind of increase safety if that's needed in the future as well. And then other things, some of the kind of more mundane things with regards to how we use the digital twins from a management point of view, from from a kind of facility management point of view. We use digital twin for kind of making it really easy to have service tickets. You can move the digital twin around and just put the service ticket in the correct place. You can select the category, be it facility, be it furniture, be it IT, and you just say, you know, like leaking toilet, broken handle on the door, broken light bulb, something like this. And it's a really simple way for employees to communicate accurately where the problems are. We also then have integrations that it creates tickets in different service companies' software as well. We have the same with regards to kind of feedback, kind of happy or not feedback as well. You know, someone actually written in our building, I hate this lobby area because it's cold and the furniture isn't very good. And people have voted 3 times to actually support that. We also have people happily saying, thank you for the fruit basket, or the new furniture here is great. So collecting this feedback then is a kind of key element as well. One strange thing that's happened during the pandemic, which we didn't really see coming, was car parking customers have asked for in terms of booking. I don't know, I have a sustainability background. I try and use public transport and cycling wherever possible, but in some organizations, car parking is a really key element. People wanted to drive, especially during the pandemic. And I actually see a beneficial thing about this from an employee experience point of view. It's a bit general, it's a bit of a general statement, but many of the people who are like the least friendly with using our software, or the least friendly or more likely to kind of really share their location and really want to have this amazing office environment, they kind of really love their car. It's almost like the opposite demographic of our key users. Actually having car sharing kind of solves a key problem for them. If there isn't enough car parking spaces, having this car space reservation, and it turns out that they learn how to use the tool from a car space reservation point of view, and this is how we onboard them. This is how they absorb the learning curve, and then they're much more likely to kind of reserve desks and share location and kind of use the tool. You know, there was a comment in one of the conversations today about the caveman risk, and with regards to kind of technology and how do we not leave people behind. This is kind of one of the other ways where we really need to solve problems that are real human problems, and people learn and value the technology because of that. It could be if there's a number of restaurants in the campus, that we show the busyness of the restaurant in real time, and we say, okay, you know, this restaurant has a big queue, this restaurant is half empty, and you delay going for lunch with your colleagues, you know, by 15 minutes to wait till the rush goes. These are the kind of key human kind of use cases that we work on. And then again, like I said, but we're not going to talk about today, but, you know, by having this employee first, this kind of human first perspective, we get really good data around which desks are used, which rooms are used. We have the sensors in the rooms and the Microsoft Exchange or Google room reservation that talks about, you know, how often a room is reserved and no one turns up. And again, we have the data around where people sit, or service requests or feedback, and then anything around indoor environment data like temperature or humidity or CO2 and these kind of things. And actually, with my kind of research hat on, every time we kind of create something from a researcher perspective, we always kind of write kind of further research. You know, there's always more work to be done. And I guess this is kind of my last thought then today. I think it's really interesting for this community to kind of be thinking about, and it's something that we're kind of really interested in. So quite often we talk about, and it was mentioned in the previous presentation as well, you know, quite often we have spaces and technology and human, or spaces, technology and culture. But Jitske Kramer this year has been kind of talking about, you know, bricks, which is like spaces, and bytes, which is like technology. But the human element or the culture element has kind of been split into 2 elements. There is the belonging, the kind of social cohesion, the narrative, the memories, you know, the community, the connection. But actually one thing that I see now, which is really interesting, as we move towards, you know, turbocharged activity-based working, as we move to these kind of elements, really is the kind of skills and etiquette. It really is the kind of the informal rules, or even the formal rules or policies around workplaces. And we see this because many of our customers don't want to have, kind of awkward conversations with their staff, and they kind of want technology to do it for them. So one example is we go to activity-based working, but someone reserves their favorite seat, for the next 6 months. One Saturday they sit down and they reserve it every day for the next 6 months. Or in a place where there's very few car parking spaces, you have someone booking a car parking space every day. And customers come to us and say, okay, can you reserve the number of car parking spaces reservations or desk or room reservations anyone can have? Can you reserve it to the maximum number of 5 or 10 or 1? And I think now one really interesting thing is that we're asking technology to solve these problems without wanting to really engage in them ourselves with our own colleagues. I kind of see this as well. I have kind of 3 kids under 10 and they have smartphones. So, how do we limit their screen use? Do we say, okay, they have 1 hour per day and we ask them how much they used and we check from time to time? Or do we put an app on their phone that limits YouTube and any games, essentially anything but, phone calling or text messages? Do we limit that to maximum 1 hour a day? And then anything else just doesn't work and they have to wait for tomorrow. So there's kind of control by technology, or there's dialogue and skills and etiquette. And I think that's one thing that I really see as being something that we need to advance as we have lots of really good kind of hybrid customers with amazing kind of office fit outs and furniture and really cool colleagues. This is one thing that I see as being a kind of difficult conversation, and one thing that kind of I'm really looking forward to the next phase of development of. But hey, that was my presentation. Please contact me if we can help you with anything, and I will stop sharing my screen and come back to see if there's any questions to answer.
Thanks, Ken, for the presentation. You can connect via camera and ask a question live from Ken, or just post it in the chat section. I have actually one question regarding basically you mentioned about commuting. So maybe this will be discussed in the next session as well.
Yeah.
But it also promotes sustainability basically. So is it implemented in many new projects, this car parking solution as well?
Yeah, I think it's a positive. It's a positive problem. Organizations are, when they're moving office, getting a lot less car parking spaces than they would before. So they're almost saying, look, if we have 300 staff, we're going to have 50 car parking spaces. Where I think in the past they would have had much more car parking spaces. But now, as a result of a sustainability plan and reducing the emissions related to transport, they're selecting buildings where they have much less car parking spaces and requiring employees to kind of use public transport and to cycle or to carpool. And now they're having that awkward conversation. They're kind of going through the change of people who really want to drive every day don't have that opportunity. So it's managing the impact of reducing the number of car parking spaces. We can do it with technology, or we can try and work out we can try and have conversations with our colleagues and with our staff to really work out how to do this the best. And I think it's a result of companies being more active and having less car parking spaces.
It's one quick question for the last minute. Christina Vasilescu is asking what kind of data you need for implementation of digital twins?
Yeah, so we build them ourselves kind of really lightly. So it's a DWG, so a CAD drawing, not a building information model, or we can even make them with PDF drawings as well. So we kind of build the twin on top, and it's a really simple, light digital twin. Hence, we need very little information. We like to have the floor plan of the furniture and the architectural background as well.
Thank you. So let's finish up. We can move to the panel then. Thanks again for the presentation. Many of you will watch it from recording, I know. So thanks again, and we'll reconvene in a panel in the other session room. Thank you.